Hi, welcome to Toon's Kitchen. Since Miss Laura, my beautiful German daughter, asked for a pie crust recipe, we're going to make a pie today. And we're going to start by making the crust. So when we put this video together, it's going to be in several segments because, again, making the crust, we're going to have to let it sit for a while. So we're going to actually break this up in some parts. So here we go with the crust. First of all, I always take a kitchen towel and I'll put it down with my bowl because then it doesn't slide around so much. It's just a little kitchen trick. Here's what we're gonna need. We're gonna need Crisco or lard, and this is how you would buy these at Meijer's. In Germany, I don't know how you're gonna buy them, but you can also use butter. So, and you can also use the Crisco in the big thing, but I buy them in these just because it's easier. So we're gonna need 1 cup of shortening, so it looks kind of like this. So we're going to put the shortening in the bowl like so, and don't throw this away yet. Take this, and I just put that aside into the pie plate, and I'll show you why when we get ready to roll the dough out and put it in there, but keep that, don't throw that away yet. So we now have our shortening in the bowl. You're going to need a pinch of salt, so about that much. You do not really have to measure that, but don't get too much. Now this is called a pastry fork. Now, I remember seeing these at my grandmother's house, never knew what it was for. If your grandparents have one of these, ask them for it because it's gonna work really great. If you don't have one of these, just a regular fork will work, but you'll see what it does. But what you wanna do with your salt and your shortening is just kind of get it mixed up a little bit. Just to get her going. Just to get it kind of whipped up a little bit.
Can I
that
melt?
Looks like this.
Can I melt the butter if it's?
You don't want to melt the butter because if you melt the butter, it's not going to go really good with the flour. So if you're going to use butter, you want to take, it'd be 2 sticks of butter will equal 1 cup. You want to put that out maybe in the morning and let it sit for probably 3, 4, 5 hours to get it soft, and then it'll look just like this. This stuff doesn't have to be refrigerated. That's why it's already soft. I just got it out of the cupboard. So. But don't melt the butter into a liquid. Thank you, Miss Amanda. So now we're going to get the flour. This is just regular all-purpose flour. I would not use bread flour or anything else like that. I would make it all-purpose. So we're going to need 2 2/3 cups. So there's 1 cup, 2 cups. This is the third, 1/3, 2/3. And that's our flour. Now, here's a trick when making pie crust. Don't add any liquid yet. You want to incorporate this flour with your lard, butter, Crisco, whatever you're doing, your shortening, and you want to work this thing quite a bit. And this might take a while, so but you're gonna work this thing into basically a dough, and it's totally okay to beat this thing as hard as you want it right now. But as soon as I add that liquid, you don't want to do hardly any beating of it anymore because it's gonna turn your crust into something really hard when you go to bake it. Once I add that liquid to it, we're not gonna keep beating it.
Why?
Makes the crust what we call tough. When you go to make the pie, you're going to go cut it, it's going to be like cutting a brick. Getting pretty good. So once it starts piling up on that fork like that, you've incorporated it. It's almost like a dough right now, but you're going to need a little bit of liquid. And little trick that I learned from somebody to make this pie crust really flaky. I forgot to put that out. But here comes the ice water. I'll show you that in just a minute. So we're going to take 5 tablespoons of ice water, and we want the ice water really cold as possible. Don't get any ice in there because it's going to help the gluten form in the crust. 3, 4, 5, and I'm just going to stop at 5 right now. It takes 7 to 8, but here's a little trick I learned from one of my mother's friends, is we're going to take a little bit of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And I probably shouldn't be pouring this over the pie crust, but I've done it before. 1 tablespoon of vinegar. It's going to make the pie crust flaky. So if you like flaky pie crust, that's what you want to do. That was 6, and 1 more makes 7. Now, we just lightly mix the liquid until we start incorporating a dough. Like so. And see how I'm not really crushing it like I was doing before, is it's really starting to work together, and it's starting to, and that's probably good right there. Now somebody's going to say, can I use apple cider vinegar? I would suggest just white vinegar, not apple cider. You don't want that flavor in there. So I'm going to take some saran wrap. Another little thing that people don't know about making pie crust. You want to get this crust out of here now, the dough, not crust, not a crust yet. Just kind of moving around with my hands to get it into a ball. Now, it shouldn't be too sticky. It might be sticky a little bit, but you can see what it's doing to my hands. It's not sticking to my hands all that much. Now, if I really don't want it to stick to my hands, I could make it go right back into the ball, but I'm not pushing on it all that hard. I'm just getting the dough back into its ball. Like so. And I'm just forming it. I'm not ramming it, okay? We want it very lightly. You can see that it's very little in my hands, but all I do is just go around and I can just pick it off. You're gonna put it in the saran wrap. Wrap it up, and you're going to put it in the refrigerator from half an hour to 45 minutes just to let the glutens, the flour, work into a dough. And then we're going to come back, and you don't have to put this in the sink because we're actually going to put the apple stuff in there, and we'll be back. All right, remember how I told you not to throw that wrapper away when we took the Crisco or the shortening out of the wrapper? All I did was take the wrapper and I laid it down in the pie plate, and I just greased up the pie plate with it because there's enough still on there. So I just went around all real nice and good, and I used it to do the pie plate. So I'm gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna tell you what I got here. Now, I went and got the dough out of the refrigerator. It's been in there for about 45 minutes. And I'm gonna unwrap that, and I'm gonna cut it in half. Because you're gonna need half for the top of the pie and half for the bottom of the pie. So here's what it looks like. And all I'm gonna do, very carefully, again, the less I push down on it, probably the better it is, the more flaky the crust is gonna be. But I'm just gonna make a disc. And what I did is I took 4 pieces of saran wrap, as you can see, and I took some Pam cooking spray and I just sprayed them real quick so that the dough doesn't stick to it. But I'm gonna lay it down. I'm gonna take my fingers and I'm just gonna push that disc out even a little bit further. And you're gonna see why I used the saran wrap. It's much easier to handle the dough. Lots of people will put it on a flat surface and they'll throw some what they call bench flour down. They'll take some flour and they'll throw it down. I don't like to do that very much because then you're adding flour to your dough, which then makes it drier and it's not gonna be flaky again. It'll get hard. So there's the 2 pieces of saran wrap with the Pam on the inside. I'm just gonna lay that on top. Take a rolling pin and I'm gonna roll forward, backward, forward, backward. I'm gonna go 90 degrees. Forward, backward, forward, backward. Then I'm gonna go basically 10 to, what would that be, 4? 10 to 4, back and forth. And I'm gonna go 2 to 8. And as you can see, the pie crust is not too bad. It should be fairly round. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just gonna open up my saran wrap again. You see that you have to grab both, but it's not sticking to the dough. But I wanna open it up, and the reason I wanna open it up and put it back down is because sometimes the saran wrap sticks to itself and it doesn't allow the dough to spread. Now, how do you know if it's big enough? Well, you take your pie pan again, and you're gonna set it down. Now remember, I'm not setting it down, but I'm setting it above. This has to come up the sides and hang over a little bit, so I think it's big enough. So I'm gonna take the top saran wrap off. And notice I've got the Pam side down. I'm just gonna lay it here for now because I got my knives and stuff right here, so I just left it open because I'm gonna use it again for the bottom. I'm gonna slide this over a little bit. I'm gonna bring my pie plate over. I'm gonna very carefully pick the whole thing up and set it into the pie. Now, I'd leave the saran wrap on because you have to kind of pick it up to get the air pockets out, because you kind of have to push this dough down inside the pie plate, like so. And there it is. Then all you do is gradually find the edge of the saran wrap. Pick that off again, and you're gonna put that someplace to save it because you're gonna use that for the top. And all I do is you want an edge here. You're just gonna go around. I just fold because if you did it right, you're gonna have just enough excess. That one's a little too long on that side, that's fine. Cut it off right about here. You might need it in a different spot as we go. I'm just making a lip. Again, not pinching it real hard, because the harder I pinch, the tougher the dough will get. Just going around, but making this lip. And like I said, there's going to be a couple spots like right here. There's not really a lip there to fold over. So I'm going to take this, my little piece I cut off over there. I'm just going to stick that in there, kind of pinch it together. And there we go. You've got your pie crust in the bottom with the little lip on the outside here when we go to seal the top. That's what it should look like. Now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some apples. I got my apple peeler here, and I'm gonna peel some apples, and I'm gonna cut them up, and I'll show you that when I come back.